Okay, good evening. Good evening. This is Jeff Berger from Cape Coral, Florida. And have Dr. Georgia Balsley from Michigan on board here. And this is what is this? The number 12 series of Getting to the Root of It. We're going to be talking about the microbiome and cancer. And for those of you who are watching for the first time, this is a monthly series that we've been doing for several months now. We do two videos per month, part one, part two. Today is going to be part two of the microbiome and cancer. And just to let you know that Dr. George and I are really humbled and really privileged to be associated with the first holistic mental wellness company out there that focuses on the microbiome. And for those that don't know what the microbiome is, it's your gut-brain axis. And many of you have heard your gut is your second brain. And your gut does talk to your brain. Now we're bringing into the heart. So it's the gut, brain, and heart, and all that's connected through what's called the vagus nerve. So the science is really coming up with a lot of studies, clinical trials, that these are, this whole system is really, really important to your overall physical health and mental health because they're linked together. They create incredible synergies to be able to make your body work. So, and tonight we're going to be, really talking about real gut talk here. And I'm really humbled to be partnering up here with Dr. Georgia Balsley. She is a mom, she is a wife, and she is a military, ex-military. So thank you for your service, Dr. Georgia. And if you could share with the viewers a little bit about your background before we get into some of the questions, okay?
Sure. It's my honor, Jeff. It's always an honor to do these series with you. My background is traditional naturopathy. I've been doing naturopathic medicine actually almost my 34th year now. And I work in a clinic in Marshall, Michigan, which is about an hour north of me, in a functional physician's office. I work with an MD, and she can do things I can't. I can do things she can't. And together we can do great things. I got involved into naturopathic medicine actually through my children, and this is where I've bloomed and stayed. I love helping the body balance itself on more of a holistic plane. And I love the science that is now coming out to really validate what I've known all along. And so excited to be part of this mental wellness company and partnered with you, Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Georgia. Awesome. Yeah, it's been really a learning revelation, if you will, because the microbiome is the hot topic today, and it is the science that's disrupting the health and wellness industry. So, and we've talked about the microbiome and leaky gut, the microbiome and autism, the microbiome in regards to anxiety, depression, suicide. We talked about microbiome and diabetes. So there's a lot of correlation here. And, with this, the microbiome can either increase or decrease, certain types of cancers, okay? And it impacts, all types. And we've learned that pretty much every organ has its own microbiome because we have so many microorganisms in our bodies. And with that being said, it leads to organs that are promoting systemic inflammation. And inflammation is really one of the root causes to having, issues with anything in your body in regards to that. So as a naturopath, what are you finding, and your understanding from that profession, how this is all interrelated between the microbiome and the different types of cancers that are really out there?
Absolutely. So, I've been doing gut health for a number of years. What's really exciting is the science that's coming forth, validating and giving us more information to be able to apply to our patients and be able to be more targeted in their care. With the microbiome project, that has come into play and the research that they have done. It's been very interesting because now there are studies that are being that are taking place, looking at the disparity of the microbiome and the as a causal factor to cancers. And like you said, we have a vast amount of microbiome. We think that when we talk about the gut, it's only there, but it does affect every system in our body. And so when a patient comes to our office, the first thing we start to do is take a look at the gut, because that is the beginning of everything. And regardless if they come and they've been diagnosed with cancer or not, the gut is the first place to start because it affects every function in the body.
Awesome. And with the gut being the first place where things start, but let's take that back a step, because really it starts with the mouth. What are we putting into our mouths that impacts the gut? Okay. And in regards to it, we do have oral bacteria. And so that's kind of where things start. And that goes down into the gastrointestinal system. So provide some feedback to those who are watching or catching us on the replay, the importance of oral health, as well as what we're putting into our bodies from from a food perspective, actually.
Absolutely. So oral health is significant. If we think that not brushing our teeth affects our overall health, that's a false statement. Oral health is critical. In fact, in cardiovascular disease, they have noticed in the plaque, when they start dissecting the plaque, that it contains the same bacteria that comes in the mouth. So it is critical. And when we talk about, like we're on the subject of cancer and oral cancer, it's part of the head and neck group, but it's often shifted by the microbiome in our mouth. And so, there's a lot of environmental factors that can change that, such as alcohol use and tobacco. So that can totally alter that microbiome environment per se. And so there's studies now that are really taking a look between the disparity of the microbiome of the mouth in relationship to cancers such as pancreatic cancer, which is really huge. So again, you talked about the mouth being the beginning, and not only what we're putting in it, but how we're taking care of it. So it's really important, the types of foods that we put in, because that also can change that environment, not to mention the environmental factors.
Wow, so much is coming to the forefront in regards to this unique science. Well, really, it actually started with Hippocrates, is my understanding, is the first documented statement about it starts in the gut. And fortunately, today we've got the science to back it with the clinical studies. So, and I, doing some research in regards to, talking about cancer and the microbiome, I learned that the microbiome is actually considered an organ. And with that, I just want to look at my notes here, because as we have the community of bacteria, we also have, the viruses and fungi that are also in our system, which play an integral role in regards to our microbiome and homeostasis, and so from a medical as a medical professional, you do see a number of cancer patients, or if that may be main focus, how does that play in a significant role with your patients, or from your understanding with your other colleagues, that now that we're learning about the microbiome being the centric portion or a focal point of so many diseases out there today?
Right. So every patient that I deal with, especially that comes to me with a diagnosis of cancer, again, we start with the gut. And with that, we have to talk about diet. We have to talk about how, what they're doing as far as therapy because oftentimes when they come, they've received a diagnosis and they're trying to figure out which way to turn. And we just want to be an adjunct to whatever they decide. And so patients that decide to do chemotherapy and radiation have an even a larger increased risk of totally altering that microbiome. I mean, it can just totally die off. They end up with things like thrush, which causes their mouth to become extremely sore. And thrush is a yeast infection of the mouth. But so, you know, we have to talk about keeping that gut well seated, because 70% of the immune system starts in the gut. And so in order to see to boost that immune factor, we need to really focus on that gut. If they come and they're in treatment, we do watch them because it's important to watch their white count, which is their immune system. And even though they have cancer, when you go through treatment, that immune system can decline. And we have to remember that, things that we're doing with the gut can alter and greatly affect their overall health. And so we enter into partnership with them, helping them to understand long term, in order to be successful, not only do we have to really do a total dietary shift, and this is, I tell my patients, this isn't a temporary fix. Diet change will be forever thing. You got to live however age they are when they come on their own terms and be able to eat whatever they want, and now their body cannot handle that anymore. So we have to totally shift that environment, but to really help them understand why they're doing what they're doing, and then to show them the difference. The science shows that roughly 70% of our immune system is our gut. And
Right.
Then when we start affecting those the different flora in there, it affects the neurotransmitters. So oftentimes through treatment, they can also develop things like anxiety and depression. So it's really important that we do focus in on that gut.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about the microbiome before in other conversations about the potential of it being the missing link to future therapies. And just for the viewers, there are a plethora of autoimmune diseases which have stemmed from the gut. And sharing my story of reversing my type 2 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease, and it's type 2 diabetes is food related. So when I learned all of this, it was like, oh my gosh, so with that, I was able to make a lifestyle change. You talk about doing this forever. So this is a lifestyle change. If you want to get better, because you can, as I say, you need to treat your body like the temple it is. And we're put here to live long, healthy lives, not to be, subject matters for treatments that either really destroy you or are not working. So, with that idea of the microbiome being the missing link to therapies, we talk about the foods that we're eating, but there's a lot of nutrients that we're missing, especially here in the United States. But there's a lot of fabulous plant products across the world that really target specific things in our gut. And let's talk a little bit about, as far as the foods, we talked about the box foods, the canned foods. They're chemically processed. They've got preservatives in there. You're eating a corn that has been injected with glyphosate, which is known as it's been patented as an antibiotic. So we're consuming that food, and that glyphosate is just eating away at your gut. So now we need to replenish that good bacteria and get rid of more of the bad bacteria that's causing more of the inflammation, which it starts with leaky gut and then it just goes on from there. So we've got a unique, product line that really targets specific neurotransmitters that aid in gut and mind health. And from, again, a medical professional standpoint, how do you see that the products that we have that target specific neurotransmitters differ from other, and there are great products out on the market, but we're in the forefront of, this unique microbiome being the science that's disrupting the health and wellness industry. Talk a little bit about that, and our flagship product that actually has 3 products that target the gut, the vagus nerve, which is the sink to the brain, and also the heart.
Yes, so the 3 brains. Yes, and so one of the things that's really exciting about that system is that not only is it well managed by a patient, but it's condensed so that it's easy to use. But the exciting part about the specific probiotic that we use in our product is that it's the only one on the market that's specifically designed to help not only reseed the gut, but help with neurotransmitter function. And so when we talk about neurotransmitters, we're talking about things like serotonin and dopamine, but also reseeding that gut. And our flagship product contains that in particular product, but it also contains another product called MenoFocus and MenoSync. So we've got food for the brain, and especially when an individual is going through treatment, they get what's called chemobrain, and it's really critical to support the brain and give it all the support and nutrition you can possibly do. And so we have that in that specific product, and then to help that communication network between the gut and the brain, so that the serotonin, those neurotransmitters we talk about, we think are made here, but they're really made in the gut. And so we want to be able to make sure that communication pathways open so that the brain can function to an optimal level.
Oh, that's great. So what I'm hearing you say is that, so for people who are going through different types of treatments and are on chemo or different pharmaceuticals, that getting a really good solid probiotic like ours would definitely work on both the gut and the brain, which is important. So with that, there we go. I thought I lost you for a second there. So and it's really important from a overall physical and mental health perspective that we align those two up together at the same time, because they need to work together. Because if you only have something working on the gut and it's destroying your gut flora, your brain is being off kiltered, and it's getting you unbalanced. So you're not creating that that synergistic, what was the word that I used earlier? Homeostasis, where it's even keeled, so you're not teetering on that. And we've got certain products that are geared for the gut brain axis, and there are great products that help with your mood, with your energy, with your sleep, and with anxiety, and also pain, because each of these, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning this, but each of these different unique areas have their own neurotransmitters that are formed in the gut, and then they communicate with the brain. So you need to have those specific plants that address those specific neurotransmitters, nourishing them and providing that open communication to talking with the brain, and then ultimately with the heart through the vagus nerve.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. And one of the other things is I wanted to bring up is these products are also methylated. And, MTHFR is a huge thing right now. That's another thing that we hear. It sounds like a bad word, but it deals with our ability to be able to detox. And so when we look at throwing nutrition at someone, which, especially when we deal with cancer, they're really nutritively compromised. So it's critical that they get a lot of nutrition in, especially those that are going through treatment, because not only do they deal with the issues of the side effects, where, they have a lessened appetite. It's really important to protect the muscle mass and keep the energy up so that they can do normal functions through the day, but, also help fight a condition, right? And so that whole methylation process means that, those water soluble vitamins now have been broken down into fat soluble so that they can be absorbed better and easier. So
Yeah.
what's beautiful about it is that we all walk around, but we don't know who has that issue and who doesn't, who has that methylation issue. So we look at everybody as though they do, so that they get the optimum amount of nutrition out of the products that we're using.
Awesome. And I would believe to say that for those who are really going through some really tough times with chemo and other types of therapies, that for those that can, it would be in their best interest to do pretty much a combination of all the products, because then their system is being really bombarded in a nice way with all of the nutrients, because there are specific plants related to each of the different products that target those specific neurotransmitters, and to connect with the brain and the heart. Would that be correct to say?
Yes, to give them all the nutrition possible plus the protection. And so like even when we talk about the third brain of the heart and protecting that heart from all those chemicals that are going through a port, which is really close to the heart, and then helping protect the nerves and the myelin sheathing with the different oils and things that are within the product, just to give that extra boost. And then I call it showering them with nutrition, because they need as much as we possibly can give them.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's so important, and I think it's going to be really exciting as we travel down this what we're referring to as the mental wellness revolution, and we are educating people. Our objective here is to educate people, to provide value, and kind of point them into a direction where they can get some information, because we've talked to, I know you've talked to a lot more than I have, in regards to they're sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, because they're not getting any better, or they're kind of like status quo, and the status quo is they're always tired, they're always achy. Well, that's just part of getting old. Well, you know what? It is part of getting old, but you can grow older gracefully, and you don't have to be, all out of shape even at 65 years old. And
Jeff, we end up as adults with tons of check engine lights that we don't pay attention to. Fatigue, headaches, joint pain, all of that, and we always will reason it off to something. Age, or I helped move Joe yesterday, and I lifted a couch and now I'm sore, or I have acid reflux, or all this. There are all these check engine lights, and it's amazing to me as human beings how we will just ignore them. However, if we were driving our car and a check engine light came on, we'd pay attention.
Right.
And so if we did that, we were more in tune and listened to our body and did that, and did preemptive things to protect our body, we likely could not, may not get into a more critical state.
Absolutely. It's preventative, as you say. Preventative is really, really key. But many of us go through, and I raised my hand on that one with, my diabetes. I blame myself for it. I was a stress eater. So when I got stressed out, I would eat, and, so I managed it, but knowing that I could reverse it. And many of you out there who are watching or catching us on the replay, you can reverse so many autoimmune diseases out there just by changing your lifestyle. It's a daily increment. This didn't happen overnight or in 1 or 2 months for me. It was a 6 to 9 month process, and I'm still working on other things. Okay. And once you get those little habits in your daily routine, you have a much better outlook on life. you know, because for me as a diabetic, my ultimatum was amputation, blindness, dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease. Well, heart disease is before Alzheimer's. So that was the progression. That was a rude awakening, because my father, his sister, and his brother all passed from type 2 diabetes and heart disease. So it is preventable, or it is reversible. And it all starts here. What are you putting in your mouth?
Yeah.
So with that, we're coming up, you know, pretty much on the half hour here. And I want to ask you to just provide for the viewers and the people who are watching on the replay, if you could provide them 3 nuggets from a naturopathic perspective. And, you know, and I'm trying to get to them opening up their brain a little bit. What would those 3 nuggets be for those people who are, you know, kind of looking for something, and they're lost at where they need to go because they're not getting the answers that they need from where they're already going to?
So that's the beautiful part is that especially in naturopathic medicine, we're looking for the root causes. That's what's so exciting about the series we're doing together, Jeff, is getting to the root of it. And people really are interested in getting to the root. They're tired of just medicating the issue that seems to progress into something else and looking for something. So there are 3 things that I would say. How are you assimilating things? How are you digesting things? And how are you eliminating things? You know, because those are really critical. So, you know, if you're not assimilating anything, you know, I can't say anything. You're assimilating some things, but not the majority of things. Then you cannot function and be as vital as you'd like. If you're not eliminating, you're holding all these toxins in that are creating a breeding ground for a number of things, from autoimmune to potentially even cancer. And if you're not digesting well, then you can't assimilate well. And so those are 3 critical things that you need to look for. And you know, we talk about products, but we live in an age, Jeff, where it doesn't matter how organic you eat anymore. The soils are just so depleted. And I tell my patients that, you know, it's not that you're void in supplements. That's not the issue. But it takes, you know, it takes 6 to 8 apples, organic apples, to get the same nutrition from 1 apple from the 1950s. That's how depleted our soils are. So I tell them the likelihood you'll always be on some kind of multi because of the fact that our soils are so depleted. But when you start really shifting that lifestyle, and we don't expect it overnight. It is a walk, like you shared, and you start making those steps. It's amazing how fast the body takes that, and you start feeling that. You start feeling more energized. You're sleeping well. You're focusing better. Things aren't hurting anymore. You know, you might not be having muscle cramps. You're eliminating better. Your overall well-being shows in that. And so my encouragement is that, you know, don't worry about getting out, trying to figure out everything. Start somewhere. And, you know, we always start our patients on the, our Premier Pack, the mental wellness pack, because we're dealing with the main structure, which is the gut, and then that communication in the brain, and then we can move from there.
Right. Awesome. And, you know, we've talked about supplementation, but in reality, it's a combination of the right supplementation, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. They all are interrelated. And that's what I learned on my journey, because too many times we just focus on going to the gym, but we don't focus on nutrition. Or we focus on nutrition and don't go to the gym, and then don't do stress management, whether it's, you know, yoga or meditation or prayer, or whatever gives you the kicks and giggles with that. That's, you have to find that out, but they all work together, and you take it one day at a time and you work into that new lifestyle, you'll feel amazing, you know, and It's pretty incredible. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you catch us on the replay, shoot us some information and let us know what you think. If you got some value out of it, great. Share that with us. Next month, we are going to be talking about Parkinson's and ALS and dementia and Alzheimer's. So that is going to be in November, and I need to work out with Dr. Georgia for the second that second segment because she's going to be in Costa Rica during that week. So we'll have to be creative in that time frame. But then December we're going to take off the whole month because it is between the holidays. We want to give you a break, and then we'll start right back in January, fresh and ready to rock and roll to provide you some really great gut health information. Okay, so thank you everybody. Thank you, Dr. Georgia, for your time and your expertise and your loving heart for sharing all this information with us.
Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you.